Eure Exzellenz, Botschafter Waldner, Herr Minister Professor Dr. Fassmann, Frau Minister Dr. Kavanagh, die Organisator Frau Bodnarova und Frau Dr. Mahmoud, Delegierte aus den EU-Mitgliedstaaten, meine Damen und Herren. Herr Botschafter Waldner, ich danke Ihrem Land Österreich. Ich danke Ihnen persönlich und allen Ihren Mitarbeitern der Botschaft, dass Sie diese EURAXESS-Konferenz in Ihrem Zuhause veranstaltet haben. Ich habe das Deutsch gelernt in der Universität für 2 Jahre in Vancouver, at a time when none of you were born yet. And for me, it's a personal duty to my German teacher in Vancouver in 1970 to say that in the year that Austria held the presidency, I was here. Ambassador Waldner, I thank your country of Austria. I thank you in particular and your entire embassy staff for hosting this EURAXESS conference in your home away from home. These people have left home. And this talk and this day is all about the diaspora. And we thank you, sir, for receiving us in your beautiful embassy building here in the capital city of America. Your gracious hospitality has underscored this dramatic day of scientific discoveries developed by dedicated scientists, all of you, and creative science managers, many of you. May I humbly suggest, Ambassador Waldner and Minister Fassmann, that like so many great Austrian composers before you, you have successfully staged a convincing Viennese opera for all of us today. Bravo und vielen Dank. That's my overture to the symphony. My name is Illimar Altosaar, and I'm from the northern capital of the most northern member state of the other union, the new USMCA Union. United States, Mexico, Canada trade agreement. Researchers in motion, universities convocating their graduands, expel them off campus towards greener pastures, richer and more useful turf grass. Diplomats like Eure Exzellenz Botschafter Waldner, they accept their diplomas and emigrate to distant lands to trade in the knowledge economy. Our honorable diplomats in the audience, you are the elite diaspora that each nation casts far and wide, planting you as seeds in distant soils to become more fertile, to enrich the motherland. Hema in Sweden, where I'm born, Heimat in German, or be it to enrich Ma and Pa Kettle's hillbilly farm in the Ozarks. Who amongst you are old enough to remember that TV serial, Ma and Pa Kettle? Trade commissioners, trade is money. The smartest trading partners trade in brain power. How do we do it in the Euro Union? Or is it the Neuro Union? We trade in brain power, back and forth. Brain trade is a function of the diaspora. So I will describe now my profits from the free trade in human minds. We heard about Erasmus, but I heard the word communist this afternoon. First mention of war zones. Let's go back even farther to the Victorian Empire, the British Commonwealth. I happen to be a refugee from Estonia, from Sweden, landed in the British Commonwealth country called Canada. And I didn't know anything about the British Commonwealth because I grew up in my very small Estonian enclave in Canada. The Victorian Empire, Victoria had a German husband, Prince Albert, and he looked at England at the time and said, "Das ist nicht so gut. We need a Technische Universität," and he built Imperial College of Science and Technology. Forget about Oxford and Cambridge and Exeter. We need some engineering. So that empire disappeared, and we had 2 world wars, unfortunately, and my parents and my oldest brother became DPs. You hear a lot about diasporadic scientists. I am a displaced person from Eastern Europe. Austria holds the EU presidency now. Back in 2002, Greece was the EU president, and its foreign minister, George Papandreou. Let's talk about another war, the Greek Civil War. After the Second World War, there was tremendous civil war in Greece that lasted for years, I think 46 to 1952. My first father-in-law was a communist fighter on the Greek side against the British in Greece. George Papandreou, his father, fled the Greek Civil War aftermath and became a professor at University of Toronto, York University in Toronto, and I think moved on to University of Minnesota, where the young son, George Papandreou, became a professor of political science as well. So the diaspora moves back to Europe from Minnesota to Athens, and George Papandreou becomes foreign minister. In 2002, holding the presidency, he decides that when the council meets, right? When did the council meet in Vienna? Just a few months ago. Now, in Thessaloniki in 2002 February, Papandreou says, okay, we'll have the prime ministers, the presidents, and we'll have the, was it 26 member states at that time? And he says, das ist nicht so gut. There are more Greeks who live outside of Greece than in Greece. What's the use of bringing European presidents to Greece when we're not here? And he decided, very revolutionary decision, to call all of the diasporas into Thessaloniki. I was privileged to be invited by the Republic of Estonia to be one of the 3 representatives from the Estonian diaspora. Turkey sent 3 representatives from the Turkish diaspora. Ireland sent, England sent, and in Thessaloniki you had, those of you who've been to Halkidiki Peninsula, there's the big resort and hotel, and there are the white chairs for the big dinner. And you go through the resort, and there was a bigger restaurant for us. That Europe is the diaspora. You have a huge world that you own and control by the Europeans who have fled to different pastures. That was a 2002, and 2003, the World Congress of European Diasporas occurred in Brussels. I was lucky enough to be there. And I think a year later, in 2004, the World Council, World Federation of Estonian Central Councils, that parliament of the Free Republic of Estonia that fled in 1939 as Stalin's troops came in from the east, we met in Rugby, England. And again, this whole idea of who are we, where are we, it's not so important. The decision is, what are we going to do about it? And are we going to work together with those kind people that have hosted us, be it in Minnesota or in Ottawa? The European Research Area is a system of scientific research programs integrating the resources of the Union. You have amazing resources in the Union in areas of business interest. The bottom-up ERANET scheme supports the coordination of national and regional programs. That's from Wikipedia. Wikipedia should be edited, in my opinion, to stress how dynamic, nimble, and explorative is the average European girl and boy. Humboldt the explorer, Darwin the drawer of birds in Galapagos, or Marie Curie with her explosive curiosity and insight into physics. I've been very lucky to work in FP4, Sappho test, FP7, Noforisk, with Danes, Dutch, Brits, Germans, and Chinese. After every meeting, the wine corks come off, the olive oil goes over the salads, and that cork in the olive oil flask comes from oak trees in Italy. Insect pests fly over the oak forests, lay their eggs, and the bugs eat all the bark. And there's a catastrophe in Italy that the oak trees are suffering. So Aranet funded Dr. Vettori's cost action in forest health, and also I was lucky to be involved in that because forest pests in Canada is part of our DNA. Our results from the Firenze, Italy program were published in Nature Biotechnology. 2018, last month, wonderful news, Aranet's NanoMed 3, the European nanoparticle nanotechnology application to medicine, third cycle. I think they had 98 proposals, and 36 went into the final round. 9 were funded, and 1 is called liquid cornea. So when I look at your cornea through my cornea, and you're looking at my cornea through your cornea, they are transparent. But if suddenly I cut myself with my long fingernails and damage my cornea, there's nothing that the ophthalmologist can do. I line up in the queue for a corneal transplant. Please, Slovakia, make more cars, have more motor vehicle deaths, because there are 12 million people waiting for corneal transplants from deceased donors. Marseille, France, Vilnius, Lithuania, Tartu, Estonia, University of Montreal, and University of Ottawa, the 5 of us are involved in a liquid nanoparticle solution that grows on the scratch and seals the cornea transparently. So we are very grateful to European Union funding now. For 3 years, we will go forward to look at the application of human type 3 collagen in making a fabric, a network of cross-linked collagen that can be done in the operatory without surgery. That's the project. But how do you link up Marseille, Vilnius, Tartu, Montreal, and Ottawa? Well, when you think of this 5-lab consortium, including my cross-appointment in Estonian University of Life Sciences in Tartu, Estonia, we have to sort of say, whoa, everyone knows where Portugal is, also grow cork on oak trees. Diametrically opposed in the farthest possible corner, very close to Finland, is this country called Estonia. On the Baltic Sea coast, the ocean, and the Atlantic Sea coast that we've all been talked about on the maps of the NATO treaty. We have fishing grounds, we have hunting grounds, talk of moose and bear. We're all searching and hunting for better ideas as scientists. As a Euro-Canadian researcher, a new term for me, I appreciate the fertile thinking grounds offered by Aranet. They're not fishing grounds, we're not fishing for ideas, we're fishing for constructive, curious collaborators who are brave enough to say, I don't know what you're doing, I don't know what I'm doing, but maybe we could do something that is very wise and very clever. The thinking grounds of Aranet. I think that ERA's brand value lies in its deep relationship with its scientists and its funding services. ERA believes that in the modern world we live and work in, this world, that we can establish a strong and researcher-focused culture based on core values. And now, this is the second overture. I finished the first movement of my symphony. I want to talk about curiosity, collaboration, and focus. Curiosity, collaboration, and focus. Curiosity, collaboration, and focus. Curiosity drives the change for a better tomorrow. ERA praises teamwork and values the team targets rather than those of the individual principal investigator, the individual professor. Focus. With a clear purpose, ERANet projects are empowered to take initiative and act, that the laceration on my cornea can actually be replaced by something new involving gold nanoparticles, transgenic recombinant collagen made in transgenic plants and brought to bear with transglutaminase to seal the cornea. We have two corneas looking at each other. How did these traits of curiosity, collaboration, and focus, how did they manifest themselves during the birth of this new EuroNanoMed 3 project? And here, I want to just briefly say that if you look at the heart and mind poster in the middle between these first two tables, and you see these blue lines that are going across the Atlantic. I mean, the first blue line is the Gripsholm that brought me from Sweden to Halifax in 1951. And then May Griffith, coming from Malaysia, because Chinese Malays were thrown out with independence in Malaysia, landed in Toronto as an immigrant, went to Harvard to do her MD, and then came back to Toronto and went to Ottawa and went to Sweden. Everyone is crisscrossing the Atlantic because, not because of NATO, and not because our homeland is in Europe, but it's because the ideas, we're hunting for ideas and searching for brain power. In 2015, my only relatives, there's only 1 million Estonians in the world, so why should we deserve a republic and a member state in the European Union? That's a different question. I only have 3 cousins. They're in Gothenburg, Sweden. They held a family reunion. I love the story and the richness of Natalia here from Philadelphia. She's Honduran Norwegian, or she is a Norway Honduran. And she gets together in her family. They don't go to a country. The family clusters together. She was telling me, Natalia, are you still here? No. 137 people in her Norwegian Honduran union of member states. So, Die Familie in Sweden, I went to Linköping in 2015 when my family had its small family reunion, 30 Altosaars and Kuttis. So I went east from Gothenburg to Linköping to visit my former University of Ottawa colleague, May Griffith. In Linköping, I saw great infrastructure, and now I understood that facilities and resources attract talent. Money can drive the brain train. Whichever way you're going, East Hemisphere, South Hemisphere, money and resources is what you need to focus on the solution in your science. May Griffith, there's no moss growing on this rolling stone. 2 years ago, May was attracted from Linköping, Sweden, to the University of Montreal to lead their newly built Eye Institute. Facilities are very, very important in science. Keeping an eye on the European scene, soon enough, May sees the call for nanotechnology applied to tissue engineering. May contacts me from Montreal to ask me if I, in Ottawa, do I still hold my academic position in Estonia? Yes, I do. I was a visiting professor there in 1994 to 97. So, nostalgia, many people say is a disease that keeps us in the past and doesn't allow us to go into the future. Nostalgia works sometimes in our favor, keeping networks alive, keeping your CV on their radar screens back in the member state. So it's a very important tool in science development. Another example, the Estonian-Swedish company Perten held its 40th anniversary, not in Stockholm in 2002, but in Harald Perten's hometown of Tallinn. He too was an Estonian refugee fleeing the Soviet invasion, number 2. Tallinn's the capital of Estonia. You see, Harald Perten, he too was nostalgic for his roots. His 2 boys, Jan and Peter, they invited me back to my parents' hometown, Tallinn, Estonia, as the keynote speaker on cereal chemistry, because Perten is the world standard. It's the Mercedes-Benz of testing flour for gluten and viscosity of pizza dough. While in Tallinn, I dropped into my old department in Tartu, where I had been elected chair 1994 to 97. In Richard Willem's lab, I heard 2 graduate students discussing in near-perfect English. Whoa! Asking the native Estonian where she learned such good English, she answered, in Japan. Evelyn Lloyd had won a mobility grant to visit genomics labs in Japan, so she first had to master better English. I remember the focus today on language first. I think it was Dr. Fassman. I had heard Evelyn talking to a Portuguese master's student in Tartu, Estonia. If I do a survey in Portugal, I'm sure nobody knows where Tartu is, but it's our national university, so they should know. Here is this Portuguese boy, 2002, speaking in English in a laboratory where I had been chair in 1994, just shortly after the Soviet collapse. So the Portuguese master's boy, he was mobilized from Lisboa, and it's diametrically across Europe into Estonia. These are brain war maneuvers. Where do you send your young troops to pick up ideas and, in a sense, infect your collaborators of the future? Sensing potential in this young Estonian graduate student, why would I focus on the Portuguese? The Portuguese had not suffered 50 years of Soviet occupation. It's my country, Estonia. I said to Evelyn, if you're good enough to get yourself to Japan to learn English, then see if you can win your own money to travel to Canada and come and do some good work and improve your English further. That she did. She applied. She got her Jan Tönnissen Scholarship, which was FAR or Erasmus. You have so many names of these programs, I don't know, but she came to my laboratory and she proved herself. The rest is history. When her Estonian travel fellowship ran out, the Rockefeller Foundation at 425th Avenue, New York City, supported Evelyn Lloyd, and she got her doctorate at the University of Ottawa in 2009. Evelyn went on to postdoc in Tours, France, for the National Agricultural Research System in France, for a year on chicken genomic libraries. I love the egg and the salt and the mayonnaise. To make tougher eggshells by engineering calcium-binding proteins. The Ministry of Agriculture in Tallinn, Estonia got wind of her availability, and she got her first permanent post in the agriculture science management field. A year later, she was appointed chairman of the agronomy department in the Estonian University of Life Sciences. Is this a rags to riches story? Is it a fairy tale come true? No. Instead, I think core values of curiosity, collaboration, and focus are at play here. She was never afraid of walking out onto thin ice. You guys are going to get me emotional now. Going out on a limb, she's not afraid. She's reaching higher to those job tasks where she knew she could fail and she knew she should fail in order to find out what's the limit of her skills and her talents in research. That's an example of an Estonian guardian angel. What about an Austrian guardian angel? Maria von Trapp, the Salzburg nun who kindly started teaching widower Georg von Trapp's 7 children. Die Familie in Österreich is a 1956 German movie about this real-life story of curiosity, collaboration, and focus. This Austrian family experienced pre-war stresses which saw them survive, flee, migrate, and succeed here in America, 1938. They settled in Morrisville, Vermont, next to the ski resort Stowe. In 1949, in America, Maria von Trapp wrote a book about the story of the Trapp family singers. Emigration, refugees. My parents and brother Peter fled Estonia in September 1944. They were lucky to escape to Sweden alive. Another brother, Eric, and I, we were both born in Borås, Sweden. Me? I'm a child of the 1940s. I'm born in 1949. When did I find out that Maria von Trapp wrote a book about her adopted family in 1949? I found it out 2 days ago preparing this speech for you. They lived 60 kilometers south of where we lived in Canada. Here is where science becomes really personal and exciting. Morrisville, Vermont is just 66 kilometers from Newport, the big port town at the southern tip of the big lake Magog. The lake spans the US-Canada border. At its northern tip of the lake is the big port town of Magog. And who lived in Magog in those times? In 1951, fearing further Soviet aggression against Finland and Sweden, many thousand Baltic refugees migrated farther west to North America. We sailed on the Gripsholm to Halifax and settled in Magog, father finding a job as a chemist in a cotton dyeing factory. Thanks to Austria hosting today's Science Diaspora Conference, I would not have had the occasion to learn about Georg von Trapp in America. Curiously, the German film, Die Trapp-Familie, was made in 1956. 2 years later, Austria made its own movie, The Trapp Family in America, 1958, and then Broadway took it on, and Hollywood's version in 1965 is known to all of us as The Austrian Diaspora. No, sorry, The Sound of Music. You know the song. Doe, a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of golden sun. And it's 2018. Songs like that are not allowed in Canada anymore because it emphasizes a female deer. It should be a gender-neutral deer. Euro-NanoMed 3 consortium is called Liquid Cornea. Marseille, Vilnius, Tartu, Montreal, and Ottawa. What I've learned is curiosity, collaboration, focus. Curiosity, when a scientist calls you, no matter at what stage you are, undergrad, postgrad, postdoc, and junior PI, be curious. Be curious. Find out as much as you can about a new project idea coming your way. What tweaked your interest? Where were when you had that idea? You have to imagine where your conversant is coming from in order to say, I got to be with that person because they're approaching me. I know something about proteins, but I need to know how they know about me. And this has to be ingrained into our grammar school children, gymnasium, etc. Collaboration. Don't be shy or hesitant about your skill set. I don't know anything about cornea and vision, but May Griffith's team needs my protein experience. Focus. Work hard and smart on the proposal writing phase. Being in science means we do not breathe, we do not eat, we read and we write project proposals. That's all we do in science, is we write proposals. You're in school to learn, and you are in science to discover what you don't know. Focus on new fields and you will receive increased funding. So my takeaways are that you really can enjoy your history, your personal history, your multicultural contacts. And if you combine that with bravery and, in a sense, notice it took me great courage to take off my jacket. Like, I'm trying to be American because I can go up with my shirt sleeves and try to be natural. But it takes courage. I was not trained. If my mother's alive in Montreal, grand age of 93, if she saw me here, be very angry. You don't do that. So just to slight my mother, they say, now, yeah, okay. I think you get the point. I'm an extremely lucky person. I'm so grateful to the organizers to have convened their first Canadian experience in University of Ottawa, capital city of Canada. I welcome you all there. If you ever come by Ottawa, you know me a little bit now, so come and see where we live, eat, fish, and hunt. Thank you.